Hello, welcome back. The oil king who ruled nations, John D. Rockefeller's relentless rise. In 1916, John D. Rockefeller became the first person in history to be officially worth $1 billion. To put that in perspective, his wealth at its peak, adjusted for the day's money, would exceed $400 billion, making him richer than Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk combined. But here's the twist. Rockefeller wasn't just about money. He built an empire so powerful that it practically dictated the pace of the world's industrial growth, and in doing so, he became both a symbol of American ambition and the target of endless public outrage. Rockefeller's story begins humbly in Richford, New York, in 1839. His father, William Rockefeller, was a traveling salesman, some say a con man, who peddled fake miracle tonics. His mother, Eliza, was the opposite, deeply religious, frugal, and disciplined. From her, young John absorbed a strict sense of order and thrift. From his father, perhaps a shrewdness about human nature. Rockefeller once said, "From the day I was born, I always knew I was destined to make money." This wasn't arrogance. It was obsession, one that showed itself when, at just 16, he landed his first bookkeeping job. He earned 50 cents a day, but he recorded every penny with military precision in a ledger he kept for the rest of his life. Those early numbers prepared him for the chaos of the oil boom. In the 1860s, Pennsylvania's oil fields erupted with prospectors chasing black gold. Most people saw oil as a messy gamble, but Rockefeller saw something else, opportunity hidden in disorder. Instead of drilling wells himself, he built a refinery in Cleveland, focusing on turning crude into kerosene, which was used for lamps worldwide. By 1870, he co-founded the Standard Oil Company, and that's when his legendary rise truly began. The secret? Ruthless efficiency and control. Rockefeller mastered vertical integration long before the term existed. He controlled every step, from production to transport to sales. He negotiated secret deals with railroads, ensuring Standard Oil got preferential shipping rates while competitors were crushed under higher costs. Within a decade, his company refined more than 90% of the oil in America. 90%. Imagine one man holding that kind of grip on a vital resource. It was monopoly in its purest form. But with great power came controversy. Journalists labeled him the octopus for the way Standard Oil's tentacles wrapped around every corner of the industry. Competitors accused him of bullying them out of business, and the public began to question whether his empire was compatible with democracy itself. The most damning blow came from journalist Ida Tabel, whose 1904 exposé of the history of the Standard Oil Company painted Rockefeller as a cold-blooded predator. It was one of the first great works of investigative journalism, and it fueled a wave of anti-monopoly sentiment across the United States. By 1911, the U.S. Supreme Court had had enough. It ruled that Standard Oil was an illegal monopoly and ordered it broken into 34 smaller companies. It might have seemed like Rockefeller's empire was shattered, but here's the kicker. Those companies included names like Exxon, Mobil, Chevron, and Amoco. His wealth didn't decline. It multiplied. Instead of one giant octopus, Rockefeller had unleashed an army of smaller giants, each still tied to his fortune. Yet, behind the headlines of ruthless tactics, there was another side to Rockefeller. He became one of the greatest philanthropists in history, giving away more than $500 million in his lifetime, a staggering sum in those days. He funded universities like the University of Chicago, established medical research institutes, and poured money into eradicating diseases like hookworm and yellow fever. Some historians argue that his philanthropy was an attempt to cleanse his reputation, while others see it as a genuine extension of his disciplined belief in efficiency and improvement. After all, he treated charity the same way he treated business, systematic, calculated, and aimed at maximum impact. But what drove him? Was it greed, or something deeper? Perhaps it was rooted in his mother's teaching that wealth was a responsibility, a divine trust to be managed with care. Or maybe it was a more cynical calculation. He knew that building schools and hospitals could buy him something oil never could: public forgiveness. Whatever the case, Rockefeller's legacy is tangled. On one hand, he reshaped modern capitalism, showing both the brilliance and the dangers of unregulated markets. On the other, he left behind institutions that improved public health and education for millions worldwide. Without his influence, America's industrial age might have developed slower. but perhaps fairer. Without his philanthropy, countless lives might have been lost to preventable disease. When Rockefeller died in 1937 at the age of 97, he left behind a world still wrestling with the questions he embodied. How much power is too much? Can extreme wealth ever be morally justified? And does philanthropy erase the sins of ruthless accumulation? To me, Rockefeller's story is less about oil and more about the human condition. It shows how ambition can create empires, how greed can corrupt systems, and how even the harshest figures can leave behind unexpected good. It's a reminder that wealth and morality are rarely cleanly aligned. They twist around each other, much like the oil pipelines that once carried Rockefeller's fortune across the nation. If you enjoyed this story, leave $1 in the comments.